Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, back with some league racing once again on F1 2020. And we arrive at WOR, I think it's round 12 so far in the season, and we are at Silverstone, which a track I think is no secret, a track I've really been looking forward to. One of my favourite tracks to drive on this game, and any F1 game I've actually played for that matter. I just love the flow of the circuit. I really feel it suits my driving style perfectly in terms of tacking the corners and just keeping up as much maximum apex speed as possible. And that really does show in normally my performances and lap time, because we did a 23.9 as a banker, actually beating JKB and the banker, which not too many people do these days in Xbox. That was certainly a good sign. And as the session went on, LVA Brown, beat my time, and then I beat him back. So we're taking provisional pole position again. But you can see, going into my last lap, we are in P7 on a 23.8, which is pretty insane, especially being on Xbox. This is definitely the most competitive grid on Xbox over a lap, for sure. But as we go through this lap, let's discuss this. Taking the first corner, you can definitely gain a bit of time by taking a tighter line. Going through to this corner, definitely taking a lot more apex speed than before. But this corner here, I really do struggle on the traction. But that was very Mr. Safe through there. Just didn't want to lose the car on the final lap, because we are in actually a bad position at this point here. At the end of the first sector, it's a 26.6, a high 6, which is not too bad. But making up some time on the apex. And on the entry, we are improving on the Delta, or definitely eating into the Delta, but overall, we are still down on our fastest lap. But I knew that there was a lot of time in the last sector, especially. So if I could get through Mackins and Beck as well, then I knew there was quite a bit of time in that last chicane. So going through it here, absolutely nailing these corners, did that absolutely almost perfect, gaining time about half a tenth or more, about a tenth actually for that whole sector. Setting a purple middle sector whilst we did that, but going into the end of the hangar straight, doing that very nice as well. And this is the corner where I could definitely get up some time. So hooking the inside there, missing the curb on the right, not losing the traction on the exit stop. You can see how much we're going up in the time, and across the line it is only 100th off pole position of CRG Lutt, who has done a high 6, which is a very good time. And yeah, I was really quite happy with that, to be honest. The first sector, I know I can definitely go a lot faster, but that is P3, my best qualifying of the season in WOR. And after a run of quite bad races, we are definitely starting to get some momentum and some confidence back. That is for sure. And this is a perfect way to start it. So we've got Lutt, Brown ahead of JKB, Jonas, Pinecone, all those guys. It's so close around here. You can see that P.8 could have put me outside the top 10 at the end of it. It is so close, but luckily we did the lap when it mattered. But now we have 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, focusing on just getting a good start, because I'm in such a good position. Normally in this league, I'm always in 5th, 6th or 7th or something on the grid. But this time we're always on the front row, and we get a very clean start. I don't think anyone's made up or lost any positions behind. There's Jonas, the guy who was in P5, who I think is about to go back into it now. He's actually got a drive-through penalty for actually jumping the start. So that is definitely one of our competitors out already. And so far, pretty much a perfect start. Not losing any positions, not really under any somewhat of any pressure or anything at all. And yeah, I was feeling really good for this. And like I say in my videos, I always look through the comments and stuff, and one thing that I saw from Austria, especially in TSRL, is that my setup was definitely far too understeery, because I always do like to have a car that is definitely more stable in the race, which obviously that's where you get the points, but it just makes your life a lot more difficult in qualifying. Going into this race, this setup, I can assure you, is probably the sketchiest, most oversteery setup I've used on this game so far. But it shows in quali, it's just so much easier to get a good lap in, and even that lap is still good 10th and a half or more off my PB that I was doing online and stuff as well. So No, it makes it harder, but the potential is a lot higher. But in the race, I think you can see definitely needing to get into a rhythm because the car was a little bit unpredictable at times, and this is just really something that takes getting used to, especially for me. It's a safety car has now come out as Cressito has actually retired from the race, and we have elected to put on the hard tyres because I've done a lot of races at Silverstone. You can do the hard tyres to the end, and the pit lane is so long. It is just an absolute no-brainer. But some people do continue because they do not want to double stack, because a lot of their teammates who are ahead of them are going to go into the pits. And yeah, they're not going to double stack. They want to hope for another safety car potentially to come out at the end of the race. So we're in that P3 behind Brown and CRG Lut. And yeah, feeling quite good at the start of this race, but I definitely felt the pace could be improved. And coming out of here, we've actually jumped the Mercedes of CRG Lut. So now we're in a net P2 in this race. So things are actually going my way, especially in the pits, which rarely happens. But yeah, back to the feeling, how I was feeling in the race itself. I felt, just felt a little bit nervous with the car, especially in the race, because it was just a bit of an unknown feeling. Normally I'm so used to having a car that's super stable, and so yeah, it was just very unpredictable. But no, if he puts you in positions like this, then that is almost half the battle sometimes. But we have jumped CRG Lut, who is probably not going to be happy with that, and very eager. It's almost right into the back of LVA Brown. A lot of people in front are on mediums, who are just going to try and stick it out for as long as they can now. And they actually should still be faster than us at this point in the race. But as the race gets underway here, Lut is looking very eager, as I almost thought I was going to lose the car over here. So we have to go semi defensive. The Mercedes driver is right behind me, and going into the left hand, he aggressively goes down the inside, pushes me wide twice. He pushes me wide here. We're trying to go side by side for this left-hander, and not just about left some room, and that has given me a warning. And I think that is actually my second warning of this race, actually the first warning. Still going side by side into here, and this corner again. He does not want to concede this position because we know how important this is. And all the meanwhile, this is allowing LVA Brown to be hit again on the right hand side. So he is really aggressive, and Lut, used to be known as Snazzy Evening, is definitely a driver you know is going to be aggressive. He's still trying to go down the inside here, which is really not helping me, because that has allowed Brown to get out of the DRS zone, and it has actually cost me so much of my ERS as well. It really has cost us. And to be honest, I think this is harming both of our races right now, and because I'm so determined to try and stay with Brown, because the medium runners, as I said, ahead of him, they're actually going to be faster than the hards at this point in the race. So it's going to be very hard to catch up to the Red Bull drivers. My ERS has actually run out of deployment completely for this lap here. And we're down to below 50% now, and I'll probably be showing quite a few laps in this race, because I think these laps are probably one of the most important sequence of laps in the race itself. And as always, I think it's always good to show as much raw footage as you can. But yeah, right now I was just trying so desperately to get back in the DRS of LVA Brown as much as I could, because I felt that the pace was extremely good, but I just need the DRS on Brown just to protect myself from the car of CRG Lutz behind. And JKB, who actually has a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pits at this point. But at this stage, I thought to myself, that could always be removed. He might have been pushed into the pits or something as well. So I'm not assuming that that penalty is going to stand. So I did still see him as quite a big threat. But coming into Magnussen and Beckett now, this is the time where I felt my strongest on the Delta. You could see we're definitely making up quite a bit of time on the Delta and pulling away from the car behind. So without being pressured and in the dirty air, I felt like my speed was extremely good with this setup that I was running. As I said, it's very pointy, very twitchy, not as good on the traction, but that's just something you have to compromise a bit. But if it makes your life a lot easier in the grid position, then it really does. And right now, you can see here, I'm using so much of our ERS again, because I'm just trying so hard to get in that DRS zone of LVA Brown. We're just going to miss the detection point. We're just 100th away from that detection point. But LVA Brown is now going to have DRS on the medium runners ahead, who I said again, their tyres are probably still going to be faster than the hard tyres. And you can see we've actually gapped CRG Luck quite a bit behind as I'm trying to hunt down LVA Brown as much as I can, as we're gaining a lot of time through the corners once again. But we just can't quite get in that DRS zone. He's got the slipstream and he's got the DRS from the cars ahead. You can see he's quite fast in a straight line as well. I'm just trying everything I can. This is a really, really big risk to me as I go out wide. And that is now my second warning in the race. Because again, the rear end felt like it could just snap at any moment. Although it doesn't look like it, just the force feedback I was feeling, I felt my car go completely light through that corner, which is normally a big indicator that the car is about to do a 360. So you can see again, we're gapping the cars behind. And even with the DRS Brown has ahead, we're still actually maintaining and actually catching this gap. But we're running such a big risk, as I said, because if I don't catch him, I'm going to be extremely vulnerable to the cars behind, who have probably not used anywhere near as much ERS as I've done. And I'm going across the line. It's a 27.7, which is pretty good on the hard tyres at the start of the race. But we are still not in this DRS zone. And we're into one-digit figures now in this ERS zone. And the gamble has not paid off. It has not paid off. The medium runs are still a little bit too fast as I lose the traction now. And that's what I was talking about. That was something I was definitely struggling with this setup. And I realised at this point that it's probably not a good idea to keep trying to pursue Brown. Although we're only a tenth away from this DRS zone. But Lutt has actually gotten a lot closer to me because of that mistake. And I just thought to myself now, no, I need to really, really harvest my ERS again. There's no point really fighting this too hard. So we're not going to use any ERS going down here. And also as well, that I am on 2 warnings. One more warning and I actually get a 3-second time penalty. So after 7 laps, that's not something you really want and something I really particularly aim for. So I do have to proceed on a little bit of element of caution. I did think about pushing still, but then I thought to myself, there really is no point. So I'm just going to let the Mercedes pass. And hopefully he has got a bit of ERS to try and close in on that gap, whilst I'll save mine at the same time. But yeah, it was a gamble, but it didn't pay off in this case. But the speed felt like it was really, really good. But yeah, I just didn't have the ERS to do it. So moving on towards the end of lap 16 now, a lot of the medium runners have actually gone in with only one staying out, which is, I think, Finder Yum, who is on the medium tyres. He hasn't pitted for them. He's just stayed out the entire race because I think he is hoping for a last-minute safety car because he knows when people undercut him for softs, there's no way that he's going to get back in the race. So you can see my ERS, I managed to manage my fuel quite nicely and managed to regain quite a bit of the ERS. JQB still has a 5-second penalty behind me, so he hasn't been added anymore. And right now, I'm just waiting for these guys to try and battle whilst using as minimum ERS as I possibly can. So coming to here, you can see through the corners, we are so fast through the corners. I actually felt quite quick on the straight as well. It was just mainly just the traction areas where, as I said, it really did struggle with, but that is just something I just really have to get used to as well. And something also I want to mention is the gloves that I'm wearing. Make sure you go to my latest tweet where I was actually mentioning these, because I will be giving away some tomorrow when this video is coming out today. So you can definitely win yourselves a chance of winning, if I can talk, a pair of these sim racing gloves, which I have to say, normally I'm not a glove man, as Lutt has now made the move on LVA Brown whilst I'm saying that. But going back to the gloves, normally I never thought I'd be wearing those, but they really have helped my grip and just the confidence with driving as well, because grip was definitely becoming an issue with the Alcantara wearing down and it being so hot in my room at times. But Lutt has now got past Brown. Let's see what the pace Brown now has, and I can see after a couple of laps that Lutt has actually got quite a bit more pace than Brown at this stage, and I was starting to close in him quite a bit. So I was really eager to get past him as soon as I can. But at this point here, I think this is a little bit of a mistake as well, because I'm using just a bit too much ERS when it was quite unrealistic for me to overtake him at the end of the straight, especially when he had the DRS here. So no, I'm really eager to get past, because I can see Lutter's actually coming up to the back of this medium runner who still hasn't pitted at this stage. But I'm actually going to use a lot of ERS here, because I don't think many people expect you to be going for a move down on the inside of this corner. So another burst of the ERS. I'm going to go down the inside of the Red Bull driver. He leaves me plenty of room. We're going to go side by side for a left-hander, and now just the case of getting some better traction and a better switchback, which I do. I'm going to have the DRS, and it looks like he's not going to fight it. I think he was thinking about it, but decides not to fight it. And we get the move into P3, but really a net P2 in this race, with pretty much a repeat scenario of the first stint, where I'm just outside the DRS zone of Lutz, but I just don't have the ERS to do it, and he has the DRS of finding on behind. But I think at this stage in the race, I should definitely be having faster tyres than the medium runner, who has done 19 laps on these tyres. So going through this sequence of corners, you can see by the delta, it's 1.2, now it's going down to 1.1, now it's going to just below 1.1 as well. Now, we're really fast in the corners, but he has managed to overtake him, which is only going to boost him even more. And again, I'm running very low on the ERS, and yeah, my ERS management this race definitely hasn't been the best it has been at any stage, but I was still hopeful that I could still win this race. If I could just get onto the back of VSR Finder very quickly. As again, I'm still trying better once again. I'm only hundredths away from this detection point. I'm 600ths away from it. And if I could get in that detection point, then I wouldn't have had to use any ERS, as Jakey B, whilst I was talking, has actually got past LVA Brown as well. So just confirming, LVA Brown, not quite the same race pace as he did in the qualifying. Maybe his tyres are going off a little bit and stuff as well. But yeah, this is very frustrating, because just having that DRS, that just makes a world of difference. That means I don't have to use any ERS to protect myself from Jakey B behind, who I still consider a major threat in this race, because just because he has 5 seconds, it doesn't mean that's going to stand at any point whatsoever. But the good thing is now that I think we definitely are in the DRS zone of Finder Yum, but the problem is I just have no ERS, so I need to get past him quite quickly to try and negate the gap that CRG Lut actually has at this point, because I'm pretty sure CRG Lut has more ERS than I do. You can see we're not even in double digits right now in ERS, only until we go into that corner. And coming into here now, Finder Yum still stays out, so this is actually probably a good thing for me, because that means I have another taste of the DRS, which should help me from Jakey B behind. But you can see now, Jakey B is trying to do the same thing as I did. He's actually trying to close in on this gap, despite him having a 5-second penalty, which again just forces me to use my ERS, meaning I just can't save anything at this point in the race here. So again, I'm trying to get the best exit as I possibly can, but I'm still having to use this ERS because Jakey B is so close behind me. Now I turn it off, but again, he's not allowing me to save any ERS at any point this race, which just having that 10% extra going into the last lap can make such a big difference. But we're closing on the Finder Yum, but he's still got the DRS on CRG Lut, who is still only 1.3 ahead. So no, the mediums are still holding out actually quite well in this race here. Jakey B is pretty close behind me, with LVA Brown actually starting to drop off ever so slightly. So going through this sequence of corners, trying to get the best run as I possibly can. We get a pretty good run coming off this corner. You can see we've actually increased the gap to Jakey B by quite a big margin, and starting to close in on Luck with the use of this double DRS really. And now I think the Renault is probably going to think about coming in, which he doesn't actually. In fact, he actually decides to continue again. So he really is praying for a safety car, because I think the undercut of the guys on the soft would have been so big now that he knows that he just needs to really just take as big risk as possible. And you can see the tyres are still holding quite well for him, and now he decides to actually pit because he knows he needs to, because it's probably not going to happen at this point. And you can see we've only got 30% ERS, and no, that isn't enough whatsoever, because if Lutt has the same as me, he can just counter that really. If he sees me getting close, he can just start to use his, and over the course of the coming laps, I decided to save it. See, I'm not really used any on this lap whatsoever, because JQB in fact has 8 penalties, or 8 seconds worth of penalties behind me. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to use him to try and drag me along. Let me save my ERS for one final charge. If he can get in the DRS zone, if he decides to just use all of his, drag me along, and I have a lot to use on the last lap to try and overtake Lutt, then that was really my only chance, I felt, of actually winning this race. So I was very, very happy to let him through. No real pressure from LVA Brown behind at this stage, and it's just a case of saving as much ERS as I can. So coming on to the last lap, starting the lap with just shy of 40% ERS. He has actually managed to close in on CRG Lutt, so he is definitely using his ERS, and I think you're about to see a prime example of how much you can gain in a straight line if you save it at the right time. So I'm just trying to be as close as I possibly can, because I know that there's not going to be an overtaking opportunity into this corner, but on the back straight, you'll be surprised how much time you can gain if you save your power very, very nicely. So going green in this first sector, didn't really use any of the overtake button then. Brown's about 8 tenths behind, with Pedro behind him on the medium tyres, so he pitted for the mediums at the start of the race rather than the hards, so that was a bit of a gamble from him. But you can see he's got a 3-second penalty as well, so no real threat. And throughout this race as well, we haven't got another warning, so despite being on 2 after lap 7, we've done quite well to be quite consistent and almost losing the car through there. But you can see the line. This is such a good line. And now look at the power of this overtake button. JQB, I can confirm, has no ERS at this point. And you can see with the power how much we closed in on this top 2. That's why it is so crucial to get your ERS management as perfect as you possibly can. Going quite deep for this last corner. LVA Brown's actually now a second out of this window. Going across the line, it is going to be P2 in the most competitive league on Xbox, WOR at Silverstone. And it feels good to be at the front, to be honest. Of course, I really wanted to win, but I think, yeah, just my ERS management and also losing that position to Lutt was pretty crucial. The gamble didn't work when I was trying to catch Brown, but I feel the pace was very, very strong, especially in clear air. But you just need to have that ERS management to back it up as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the support on my streams. We are at TSRL Silverstone tomorrow, and to be honest, it just feels really good to be back at the front after some rough periods of racing. But all the support and positivity, it honestly means the world to me, and I remember every one of you who does that as well. So thank you so much, and I will catch you soon. Peace.